What was your cash last month?
Last month we had some moving pieces, so I think it was only like maybe 35, 36. But this month, so far we're already at 32 for the month. I hired a ops person and I'm hiring like an AI developer. Believing in me, to everybody that's watching this, if you take anything away from this call, is to follow directions, right? If Dan tells you to do X, Y, and Z, believe it with your whole heart. He's been right about every single inflection point in my business. He's been right for all the good things that's happened in my business, but I think more importantly is when bad things happen, and they inadvertently always do, the advice that he gives you on how to get out of that hole and what to expect on the other side has been right every single time.
It was January of this year, so we're like 10 months ago. You hopped on a call with me. What I remember of that call is like I was looking at a couple other people and we jeffed, we like connected, and you're like surfer bro, but also like an entrepreneur through and through. And I think that's what we like vibe on, because we both got the chill vibe, but we're like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm gonna make things work. Could you just tell us what was the situation like when you were coming in to having that call? Yeah, what were you present to? What was it like before?
So I think I hopped on a call with you end of January. You were one of 4 potential mentors that, we were looking at. Leading up to that point, the business was really just in proof of concept. We spent about 8 months locking in really what the product's about, getting some level of results for clients. Everything was completely organic at the time, so I was dialing about 100 to 150 clinics a day. You're just cold calling, and it was just such a brutal process. It was time consuming. It was the opposite of encouraging, if you would, right? You're making all these dials, you're getting people to tell you to go F yourself. You're hardly ever talking to the main decision maker. And I just thought there has to be a better way. I've never advertised in the past, so $0 spent in advertising. I think it could be a solution. I just wasn't sure. And then I was massive in the Hormozi ecosystem, Quantum won the school games. So really, I've been following you guys in your journey since maybe June, July of last year.
Yeah. Well,
January is when we decided to reach out. It's funny because when we reached out, we have already spend time in the free community, spend time in the paid community. There was like a 7-day free trial. And I think on day 5, we reached out and booked a one-on-one call. So that
amazing.
was the situation, being very honest, we had about 2 months of runway left, right? Cash
Yep.
in bank.
Yep.
If we didn't do anything, if we didn't change how we advertise or change our advertising strategies, period, we had to close the thing down. So it was definitely a lot of like hectic energy and almost like calling for help, just not really knowing where to go from there. And that was the energy that I had coming into the call with you.
It's so cool because I remember that call and I remember the energy. I don't remember what was said, but I remember the energy. I think I remember like kind of almost pushing away a little bit. I'm like, in order for this system to work, you got to come into it with like that needy energy isn't going to work. Like I need it to work. Dude, from day one, you were just like took action, you did the things. And so maybe let's in kind of rapid fire, if you're like the bullet point, 5, 6, 10, whatever is there, little big things that are just action, like I did this and I did this. And I like, what was your experience when you came in? What did we do and that moved the needle in like kind of bullet point, like,
First thing I did was game plan call with you, right? We
mhm.
kind of looked at the next 6 months and we had a general game plan. I think as an owner, that gives you confidence and clarity, peace, the clarity piece, obviously having it mapped out, the confidence piece, knowing that there's a more competent operator who built out this game plan for you. Once we had game plan in place, it was go time. So I got access to the community. I probably spent the weekend just going through all the different modules, taking notes, just really submersing myself in not what was said, but how it was said, understanding the kind of businesses that, Quantum want to build and the values and the ideologies behind why we build and what is the thing that we're looking to build. I think my biggest takeaway from that first weekend was don't build a business you come to hate. And that's still
That's
something that, I think about all the time. From there, engagement with the community, right? Responding to people's posts, introducing yourself, getting on one-on-one calls, taking action in the community, being a giver. I think at least when I left the community, right, I think I was still number 1 on the leaderboard. And I think the
yeah,
second person next to me was like, I think I was maybe around 400 something points. And the
yeah.
second person next to me was maybe like 180 points. Like I was 3Xing the closest competition
This
on
is so
leaderboard.
key. I
Yeah.
want, maybe there's people who aren't on school or don't know this, but like everybody who's ever been successful in our community has been a top giver. They're the people who
Mm.
come in and they're like, yeah, they're commenting, they're engaging. The people who always struggle, they're not seen. And you definitely like you showed up in a way that was, even though circumstantially You're like, I have 2 months. Like it would be very easy for a lot of people to be like, I can't deal with anybody else's stuff. I got to just focus on mine. But here you are showing up, you're giving, you're doing the things. And I think that's such a key point. And yet you are top, contributor to the community. Right. So great point. I love that you brought that up and that you got immersed in the culture, because that actually maybe there's probably a couple other like tactical things, but I'm not sure when, because you also came to our retreat pretty early. Right? That was like April.
It was April. I started really jamming hard with you guys, really getting after it, maybe like middle of February. So 60 days in, I was like getting ready to get on a flight, meeting you guys in person.
Totally. Okay. And we did some things before that. So the other things that were like big needle movers. Yeah. What was the maybe like 2 or 3 things before the retreat?
Then is all the calls, right? You had all these calls on your calendar. Make sure you show up. Even if you don't have questions, just be there to be immersed in the knowledge. And I think the willingness to learn. I think the coolest thing about joining an online community like this is, you're surrounded with other people who really want it. They didn't just come here nilly-dally. They paid out of their pocket. They are looking to do something. So they show up with the energy of, building. And I think it was really awesome to be submersed in that. At the time there were entrepreneurs who were ahead of me, some were around the same size, some were slightly after me, but it just felt like it was the right group of people. Like we were all in this mission, this collective, if you would. So I started going to all the calls, right? Submersing myself with the content. And then the next big piece is getting those ads up and out. It probably is a very scary thought. And I don't know what I was thinking to myself to have a 2-month runway and then let's just spend. Let's just throw it on a card. I have no idea how this is going to go. Let's just spend. I think the expectation was like, just put aside 600 just for spend, just to get data to test. I remember I was talking to Jaden, the ads coach, and he was giving me like, okay, there's like the more conservative way to scale. This is my normal recommendation. And this is if you want to be really aggressive. And I was like, aggressive all the way. Let's go. Aggressive all the way. So we chomped through that 600 in test budget, maybe in about 14 days. And then nothing. We had no signal that anything was going to work. We can shut it off right then. I would have every excuse to, and then I can sit there and complain. Or I could double down and we actually launched more ads. We got more creatives. There's more spend. And it was really right at that cusp of 800 to 1,000 in spend did we see the first click, right? And that was the first time I saw a co-traffic who saw me on my ad reach out to me and become a client.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me at the time, you're like, oh man, you just been doing organic? Man, just wait until ads kick in. Right? And there's no doubt once the ads started to kick in, it was like game over, right? It was like everything in my power to scale this channel of acquisition.
Yeah.
There was the opportunity to go quantum. And I remember, I really wasn't sure if it was the right move for us. We had 2 months of runway left. We maybe closed 1 deal, 2 deals. And I was like, man, like, I shouldn't spend my money like this, right? Like I should save it and I should blah, blah, blah. And I remember, calling my dad. I'm tight with my dad and I hardly ever call him, but I call him for like these big important decisions. And I was like, Pops, this is how much I have in the bank. This is how much it will cost to go to Mexico, right? I don't know if I should go. And I remember he asked me like a super straightforward question. He was like, I didn't catch anything you said, son, but like, because none of this made sense to me. Did you make money with these people? And I was like, yes, I did. And he was like, then go.
Amazing.
Right. Then go. So I was given the advice to jump without a parachute straight into the sauce. The retreat was an out-of-body experience. I think the biggest takeaway was the elevation of the kind of owner that you became. It's like, I'm the kind of owner that take my business so seriously. I'm willing to spend thousands of dollars, get on a flight, and go spend a week with strangers just to maybe better my business. That's the kind of operator I am.
Yeah.
And that kicked in as soon as you bought the ticket, you booked your flight, and you have a date on your books, right?
Totally.
That identity shift starts to happen. When we were submersed, I had more personal takeaways than I did business takeaways. But what I learned later was our business hardly exceed the growth of our personal development. So I think it was through growing the person that I become the operator that can wield the business that I have now.
1,000,000%. I love that. That's exactly why we do the retreats. Okay. So you come, you're making the tweaks, you're starting to see things click. You come off of the retreat, you've come to these personal revelations, and then from there.
Oh man, it should be all gravy, right?
Ah,
It should be all gravy.
right.
But the one creative that we had, the one campaign that brought in
Yeah.
100% of our new clients got turned off.
Oh man.
We got turned off. And I thought, no worries, we'll just turn it back on.
Yeah.
We'll turn it back on. For
Right.
those out there that don't advertise, or let me speak to those that do advertise, you know what I did.
Yeah.
To those that don't advertise, you're maybe thinking the same thing as just turn it back on, Kev.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way, right?
Yep.
When something is clicking and working, you never touch it. You never turn off your best performer. And that's exactly what I did. I turned off my best performer and begin this 4 month process of trying to save the thing. The
Hmm.
mistake wasn't in doing everything in my power to try to save the thing. The mistake is thinking that these things need to be saved. We spent maybe $7,000 in trying
Hmm.
to bring the advertisement back,
Yep.
and it was a tough decision. But pulling the plug and saying, you know what, we're not going to try to save this anymore, right? We spend enough now where it doesn't justify.
Yep.
We're also running out of money, so stop spending it on this. Let's
Yep.
just get another creative out there. Let's just get another
Yep.
creative out there. And then we tested maybe a series of 10 to 12 different creatives. One of them was a winner, and the winner ended up, it's still something that brings in clients for us right now.
Yep.
Once an ad is scaled and it brings in clients, it can keep bringing in clients. So that one, fixed everything. And
Yep.
then we're right back in the pocket.
Yep.
And then we started scaling that new creative up. But it was like coming off of like this small short win, and then we had like a massive dip, and then like we're trying to
Uh-huh.
save it, and it brought us even deeper. And then
Uh-huh.
we decided to change it up, and then boom, the next one brought us to the next level. So
Yeah.
for context, we came in at around 12,000 a month.
Yep.
And then during the first transition, we're at about 22, 23K a month. And then we
Yep.
saw the dip, and then we came
Yep.
back at around 30, 35 a month.
Let's go. And then there's one other thing to wrap this up. So, we went from 12 to 35K per month. Now you're in a steady flow. You've got the skills, develop the character. In that dip, the one thing that I want to highlight is that while you were fixing the ads, you also took 100% responsibility on every other piece of your business, and you tightened everything up: the systems, the tracking, the strategy, the organic. Like, you were in action that whole time and didn't let this one little thing slow you down, and it actually made everything else in your business better. And then when the ad worked on again, everything is working, but way better and more consistent now. And so this is just like such a beautiful example of like how to approach challenges, of how to invest in yourself. And now you've become like, you've also developed the skill of advertising. And this is now going to unlock you into next levels of growth that people will be like typically think are impossible. Dude, I'm so grateful for you, to be connected with you, to have be able to witness your growth and who you are, and love what you stand for, love your heart. Grateful for you. I'm grateful for this. And I hope that it helps the people that we share it with, give them some insight into building a business that can do 35, 50, $100,000 a month. This is what it takes. And you're here going to make a huge impact. And so thank you, my friend. I love you, buddy. I'm grateful for you, and I'm excited for you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for
Yeah.
everything. Thanks for getting me to this level. Thanks for believing in me. To everybody that's watching this, if you take anything away from this call, is to follow directions, right? If Dan tells you to do X, Y, and Z, believe it with your whole heart. He's been right about every single inflection point in my business. He's been right for all the good things that's happened in my business, but I think more importantly is when bad things happen, and they inadvertently always do, the advice that he gives you on how to get out of that hole and what to expect on the other side has been right every single time.
Bro, appreciate you, dude. All right. I know you got calendar full of calls, and I appreciate you taking the time to fit us in here. But dude, keep crushing it, and chat with you soon, my friend.
Chat with you soon, brother. Stay blessed. Okay. Good
See you,
seeing you.
brother. You too.
Peace.